Welcome back, listeners, to a brand new episode of The New Standard. And as always, we're bringing you the program on Wednesday morning. And I want to welcome everybody who has joined us and want to participate in the program. You're just seeing my pretty mug right now because my partner in crime, Neil Coulong, is currently looking for offensive coordinators at Paisley Park and in Lake Minnetonka. So hopefully Neil Coulong will find the Steelers' next offensive coordinator in Paisley Park or Lake Minnetonka. If you want to participate in the program, make sure you hit the notification bell, like and subscribe. Also, you can hit me with a super chat. It's 224. The holidays are over. I'm sure your coffers are full. So please hit me with a super chat. Also, if you want to get the podcast, however you get the podcast, do a search for Lance Williams and or Neil Coulong. The big news in Steelers world this week was the press conference of Mike Tomlin and the announcement post press conference that Mike Tomlin will be getting an extension. Neil and myself, we tried to tell you guys that Mike Tomlin was going to get an extension. Now, I will say this in full honesty. Me and Neil would have liked if Mike Tomlin was not going to get an extension. We would have preferred if Mike Tomlin was not going to return as the head coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, with that being said, I'm not overly upset that Mike Tomlin's going to return. And I'm not overly upset that he's going to get an extension. It's very difficult to win football games in the National Football League. And although the Steelers have not won a playoff game since their 18-16 defeat of the Kansas City Chiefs in 2016, I think Mike Tomlin is absolutely an excellent coach. And if you were going to bring in a new coach, you were going to completely start over. And looking at the AFC North, the way it's situated, if you hit the restart button completely, I think the Steelers don't go to the playoffs for the next 5 to 7 years. Because in the division, you have three excellent quarterbacks. I mean, you've got Deshaun Watson, you've got the presumptive MVP in Lamar Jackson, who put up 4 touchdowns against the Houston Texans this previous weekend. And you're talking about Joe Burrow. So you're in a division where you have 3 really good quarterbacks. And I think we can all agree the National Football League is an arms race. You can't come to the fight against a 50 cal with a shotgun or with a slingshot. You better have a howitzer. You better have a 50 cal as well. And if you don't have a 50 cal, you better have a very good coach. And you better have a very good coach that will allow you to win on the margins. However, winning on the margins will not win you a championship. However, with that being said, Mike Tomlin coming back, I don't think is a bad thing. But let me explain why myself, and I'm speaking for Neil as well, why we did not want Mike Tomlin to come back. But given that he is coming back, I love what I hear so far and the key nugget in what I heard in that press conference. The reason why Neil and I did not want Tomlin back is because of the offensive ineptitude we've seen over the last 3 years. And some of that has to do with Ben Roethlisberger retiring, Ben Roethlisberger getting injured, moving on from him. But when you look at an offense in 2021, that averaged 20.2 points per game, and the point differential for the team was minus 55. In 2022, they averaged 18.1, point differential minus 38, In 2023, they averaged 17.8 with a point differential of minus 20. You see the trend that's happening with the Steelers offense under Mike Tomlin. They're scoring less points, and they always have a negative point differential. Now in Pittsburgh, the 15233, and again, you're listening to the new standard. Please like and subscribe to the program. The goal is championships. The bar is winning a seventh Lombardi. With that being said, you've got to get to the dance to have a chance. And the Steelers do get to the dance, quite often. They win their share of games. So I'm not disappointed in that. But these numbers tell a very interesting story. You can't win a championship averaging 20.2, 18.1, and 17.8. And I would be more optimistic in the retaining of Mike Tomlin had these numbers gone the opposite way. Say in 2021, you average 20.2. 2022, you average 22.5. 2023, you average 25.6. If the trend in the scoring was going in the opposite direction, I would be more optimistic about Tomlin being retained as the head coach. Because the one thing, and we talked about it a little bit at the top of the program, margins. You cannot win a championship on the margins. You need to have an offense that is going to score 25 points a game plus. If you don't, you're not going to be able to compete for a championship. If you look at the last 5 champions in the National Football League, they've all scored over 25 points per game. You have to be able to score points. Points are the great equalizer. They make up for your deficiencies. You could have a variety of deficiencies on the roster, but if you can score points largely driven by your signal caller, you have an opportunity to win a championship. You especially have to score points in a division where you have a 2-time MVP and Joe Burrow. I mean, you have to. If not, you're going to be struggling to win the division, and you're going to be struggling, hence, to win championships. And it's my firm belief, if you don't play at least one playoff home game, you're not going to win a championship. And in order to do that, they're going to have to get very good quarterback play. That's why the hiring of the next offensive coordinator is so key. So let me just surmise everything and crystallize it in this one statement. I did not want Tomlin back because the offense has regressed and because I did not think he could assemble a staff to build a good offense. Particularly, why would you trust anyone that hired Matt Canada? Now, there's some controversy in Steeler Nation and the world of the Steelers about who was responsible for hiring Matt Canada. But it doesn't matter, honestly. Because whether Tomlin hired Matt Canada or not, you've got to get everything you can out of the offense. And I'm sure that Tomlin, Canada, and Rooney, I'm sure the Rooneys and Tomlin hired Canada. Be it as it may, that I would not trust him, Mike Tomlin, solely being the guy to make that hire. So the thing that I heard in the press conference that I love, and I love what I hear, is Rooney is going to take a very active role, the owner, Art 2, Omar Khan, and Mike Tomlin are going to be the 3 people who weigh in principally in hiring the coordinator. I love that a lot of it is not going to just lean on Mike Tomlin, where Mike Tomlin is the only person making that decision. With that being said, though, if it doesn't go right, and as fans, we blame what we can see, the true blame of the ineptitude of the offense will have to go on that triangle who made the selection, not just Mike Tomlin. I want to jump into friend of the program, David Todd, who made a great observation when it comes to organizations that win. And he said any good organization is built around a GM, player personnel, and coaching staff who have a shared collaborative vision and work together to achieve that. Now, that's what I think is important moving forward. And again, I love what I hear because Mike Tomlin came out and said Eddie Faulkner and Mike Sullivan will not be named offensive coordinators. Now, I believe that Khan, Tomlin, and Rooney are on the same page. I believe that the first example of that is that we've heard that Sullivan and Faulkner will not come back. What that tells me is that hiring group is willing to go outside the Steelers' doors and look for the next coordinator. Now, when you're looking for a coordinator, are you looking for a leader? Are you looking for a scheme? Now, if you're looking just for a scheme, and they also said they want a coordinator who had previous experience. And I take that to mean they want a coordinator that has called plays and has been an offensive coordinator and has had success in the league. Now, that could be at multiple places. Say a Frank Reich. It could be somebody like that. Now, hopefully the three that are going to do the hire will get together on the same page around an offensive philosophy. I would like to see more under center play action. I would like to see a more creative running game, particularly in this NFL, because there is so much post coverage rotation that you have to attack that post coverage shifting, or I should say post snap rotations. With that being said, I'm certain that they'll get on the same page in terms of what comes next. And again, listeners, you're checking out the new standard. The title of this episode is I Love What I Hear so far. The other thing I heard was no Byron Leftwhich as the offensive coordinator. And you know why that is so key is, in my opinion, this is no knock against Byron Leftwhich. I think Byron Leftwich would have been a lazy hire. You go out, you grab somebody that Tomlin is very familiar with, and it's quick. It's lazy. We're just going to bring a guy in that was a Steeler. I think this is an opportunity to bring in a fresh, new offensive scheme, but it has to be one that centers around the strengths of Kenny Pickett and minimizes whatever his weaknesses are. And we'll talk more about what we think of the program, the new standard, that his strengths and weaknesses are. But I love the fact that there's no Sullivan, no Faulkner, and no Leftwich. I think all three of those guys being hired would have been lazy hires. When the Steelers have the opportunity to go out, grab a new offensive coordinator, get a new scheme, you have to take that opportunity. And I love that I hear the search is going to be exhaustive. There is no need to rush. The Steelers aren't going to be in OTAs and mini camps for some time. So take your time and really thoroughly search for the next offensive coordinator. I love that I hear it's no Sullivan, no Faulkner, and no Leftwhich. Erroneously, we thought that the Steelers would just go with Sullivan or Faulkner. We thought Faulkner was problematic because he had no play calling experience, and that would probably disqualify him. But I'm glad that they are going in a very different direction, because 20.2, 18.1, and 17.8, that's unacceptable. You cannot compete for a championship when your offense is that anemic. You cannot compete for a championship on the margins. You need a high-powered, explosive offense that is going to score points. From the defensive side of football, I think they're probably good enough to compete for a championship. I mean, they gave up less than 20, last 3 years. I think that's good enough. What isn't good enough, clearly, is this offense, and that's why I wanted Mike Tomlin to go. But to summarize everything and crystallize it and put a nice bow on this particular episode of the show, I love what I hear so far. The Steelers are challenging their norms. They're getting out of their comfort zone. They're willing to go out, hear new ideas, and bring in someone different. And I hope it's an established coordinator with some experience who can push back on Tomlin. Now, one of the things I think that may be difficult in bringing that particular person in is Kenny Pickett. I mean, if you have head coaching aspirations, do you want to come in and be the offensive coordinator for Kenny Pickett? Maybe so. Maybe not. We will soon see. But with that, we're going to conclude the program, and we are going to send out an SOS to Neil and see what Neil comes back with as Neil scours Paisley Park and Lake Minnetonka for the Steelers' next offensive coordinator. But with that, we're going to conclude the program. And as always, tune in, tell a friend, and subscribe.